Well, at a headline level, you'd be forgiven for thinking that nothing much happened today. We ended the day up 0.01%, as good as flat, 54,488 points on the all share. But look at that market turnover number, 44 billion rand changing hands. And quite clearly, when you scratch beneath the surface, you see that Rand hedges masked some serious pain by SA Inc. today. There was also the MSCI rebalancing. But investors, if you ask me, look to finally be giving up as Didi Mabuza, the cat, a man accused of having his own militia in Mpumalanga, got voted into Parliament. Clean up? What clean up? Rob Tawell, portfolio manager at SAS and Wealth, is in studio. And on the line, I've got Jordan Weir, trader at Citadel. Rob, it does look like the Rand was the big story of the day, and people really asking why 3 weeks after the election there's still no cabinet.
Yes, it is surprising. I think they were waiting to see what happened with David Mabuza, so that came out today, and obviously the Rand did not like that. There's obviously other factors that are making the Rand weak at this stage, but definitely looks like that was partly part of the trouble for the Rand today. And, you know, they want a cabinet, and they want a cabinet that's strong, and this is the first sign that it's not necessarily going to be that good. So maybe Cyril Ramaphosa's got some different ideas up his sleeve, and hopefully we'll see something this week, and hopefully it's during trade and during the week and not Friday evening or Saturday evening.
As has been the one, certainly of the ratings agencies, late on Friday. That's according to some arbitrary regulation, I think, that they release late on Fridays, but we did have that delay, or the announcement of the delay, on a Sunday, which did hark back to the bad old days of midnight announcements under the former president. Jordan, as a trader, looking at that Rand today, lots of volatility and 1.8% down. How much of that is local news? How much of that is international concerns around the EU?
Look, I think majority it would be concerns around the country in general. There's also, like Robert said earlier, there is a lot of different factors at play. One of them, especially now, is the whole Eskom situation. And they do continue to be stagnant, and I mean they pretty much haven't moved at all in the last 6 months in terms of a way forward. And I suppose the people that will be coming into management of that, or whether it will go into private hands. So I suppose that is a big thing. And I do also think, playing off the back of the emerging market risk-off environment now, with the European Union now getting a few issues thrown their way from Trump, and China trying to obviously navigate that massive issue as well.
Well, Trump is in Japan at the moment. It has been more of the same, threats around tariffs and the like. Before we get into the Trump situation, the big question investors are all asking at the moment is, if Eskom is the number one risk to the South African economy, why was there no backup for the position of CEO? The Phakamani Khadebe story had been circulating for some time, the fact that he wasn't happy for a number of reasons, and here we are once again with a rudderless state-owned enterprise.
Well, maybe they're waiting for the cabinet reshuffle now, if there is one. So that we'll see who's in charge of that area. There's still pressure on Pravin Gordhan, as you saw earlier in the week as well. So we don't know where he's going to fit. Is he going to make it into the cabinet or not? Maybe he should be the CEO of Eskom. But so it is difficult, and it's putting pressure on the company. It is the number one risk to South Africa by far. So we have to fix Eskom.
Yeah, and it does also show you how much local political factors, more than fundamentals, are what are driving markets at the moment. If you look at the other big news into the auction, and that 44 billion rand is not just because of Didi Mabuza and the weakening rand. We also had the MSCI reweighting. Jordan, what happened with that reweighting at the market close?
Look, I mean, in general, because during auction it was all over the show. And we just saw, I suppose, lots of big numbers coming through. Lots of, I suppose, reweightings. There wasn't too much exciting on the go in this general reweighting in terms of top 46 and all of that. But in general, there was a lot of movement, I suppose, in the property space. Guys moving a bit lower down in the weightings in the general sense of the reweightings, but not a massively I suppose, unexpected reweighting situation. Just a big lot of volume went through. I think it was just under 30 billion that went through just an auction.
And Rob, that reweighting had been flagged for more than a month. Who are the big winners and losers here?
So Naspers was weighted down, so I think that's also why you see the index come down. So that a big chunk of that was Naspers. Even though it's very small, it still weighs on the index on its weighting level. So we saw Naspers do 7.7 billion today. Then the property stocks fell out. So Fortress came out of that index. So you saw some pressure on the property stocks. We saw some upweighting of Capitec. Didn't really show in the auction there. It still finished negative on the day. Nedbank came out. It was a bit reweighting, and Nedbank was a bit weaker. Bidvest came down, and you've seen actually Bidvest over the last weeks coming down. So I think that people have been rebalancing that, at least on a local level as well, all the way down. So you've seen Bidvest and a few of the counters that were coming out of the index weak for the last week and a half.
If you look at the big winners on the day, Sibanye up just over 10%, and that's really on specific news around the Lonmin deal. Tiny Roland's Lonro then became Lonmin. Looks like it'll be confined to a distant memory, Rob.
Yes, I mean, the jury's still out whether this is a good acquisition or not for Sibanye. Lonmin have got labour issues since Marikana, really. They've got a difficult working environment. They've got expensive mines. So, maybe Froneman can get something out of this mine, but it's interesting to see what they're going to do. And yes, I'm sure it will maybe change its name and it will be just Sibanye Stillwater. Luckily, the palladium price has stayed firm, so it's helping them in this period at over $1,300 an ounce. It's still a very big number for palladium, and it's helping our South African miners at the moment.
Jordan, it really is rather symbolic as we know that Lonro, and certainly as it became Lonmin, were the last remnants or vestiges of a very prominent form of British capitalism in Africa, colonial capitalism, and now it's going to be rolled into the Sibanye Stillwater stable. One thing Neil Froneman has done, he's a prolific deal maker, but he's also shown a platinum steeled spine in the face of the unions, and one wonders whether AMCU will have the gumption, the courage, or the bark to go and take up the cudgels in the platinum sector now, following what happened to them in the gold sector.
Yeah, I think, look, I know everyone's got their specific views in the market on certain guys that steer the ships and stuff, but he's really not a bad guy in terms of his deal-making stuff. Also, like that, the platinum has come off a lot, over the last year or so, and maybe it's the perfect time to be doing stuff like this, and a deal like this. But in general, the whole mining sector has been relatively decent over the last year or so. It has pulled back a bit. I think Sibanye primarily on the, I suppose, murkiness of these kind of dealings, whether a deal will go through or not. But look, I don't think you go through on a deal if you think there's a high chance of it not working. So I suppose it's up to the shareholder in the end, and the shareholders seem pretty happy with moving forward. That's what it looks like. So it does depend on what Neil does from here on out.
Yeah, the takeover backed by, and it's an all-share takeover, 98.87% of the votes. So that's pretty overwhelming, Rob, in terms of support for the transaction, and quite underlines Neil Froneman's increased reputation as a prolific deal maker. Telkom came out with results yesterday, and on the surface they look quite good, doubling of its mobile customer base. There were some funny once-off items on the revenue side and IFRS accounting things, and today a note from SBG Securities with a target price on Telkom of 55 Rand. It closed the day at 84 Rand 80. That's down 6%, giving back most of yesterday's gains and a little bit of Friday's as well. Rob, what are your thoughts on Telkom? I know we're waiting to see how we can extract, or the management team can extract value from the property assets. 55 Rand a share.
Well, I think the management team has done very well with Telkom in a very difficult environment when there's not huge GDP spend coming through the economy. I think they've done well to clean up their mobile operation. They've competed very aggressively. They've advertised very aggressively. Their pricing is aggressive, and they've taken market share. So I think on the cellular side, they've done very well. On the fiber side, they're ticking along on fiber, but it's not. Margins are thin. So there's you really have to have mass scale to really make growth and large profits in this area. So I think on the cleanup side, how they've restructured the business, it's very good. If we take a look at the numbers, their revenue was actually down on a cash level. So revenue was down. So we're trying to see how they mustered up 22% increase in the earnings. So I think a lot of it is readjustments from accounting and from the previous year. So I don't think they're as strong as those numbers suggest of up 22%, and you saw today as it came down about 5.5%. 55 Rand is quite a low target price. I have to read the note to see what the analyst is thinking of why it should only be 55. But if you take a look at Vodacom and you take a look at MTN and Cell C, all of them are battling with margins. And in a business where margins are decreasing, it's very difficult to buy stock, especially if it's fully priced.
Yeah, and one certainly can't see where any margin expansion would come from in a market like this where there is all sorts of regulatory risk. And if you're expanding into Africa, as we saw with Vodacom today, geographic risk as well that comes with it. Contract results, so nice to see a company cutting its dividend on the back of good results to invest in growth, backing its management team here. Rob, what do you think of that?
Yeah, so contract's not something that we look at often. It's quite small in our world and not something that is in our portfolios. But taking a look at the earnings briefly, really good, strong set of numbers. They've got earnings not only in South Africa, but they've also got earnings outside of South Africa. It looks like a very good management team. They continue to grow. They've got their own platform, so when it comes to vehicle tracking and logistics for vehicles and fleet management, they've got their own software, proprietary software, which is always good. You're not having to pay fees away. It looks like it's class leading software as well, so they're starting to take market share from people, and some of the big logistic companies are starting to look at them to use them for fleet management. So it's not just recovering of cars now, but fleet management as well, and a very good set of numbers also in a difficult environment. So kudos to them.
Yeah, Zach Callisto, as you say, it's not one of the large or even mid-cap, more sort of the small-cap type stock, but Zach Callisto and his team have been doing a great job over there. And then just lastly, Jordan, I don't know if you saw those tourism numbers that came out of Stats SA. The number of tourists entering South Africa fell by 6.3% in the first quarter. That's a year-on-year number. That's not good for a country that has, according to the President in his State of the Nation address, a focus on tourism as some of the low-hanging levers to pull to get growth going. We have to sort our visa regime out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, when you look at our country, we're probably one of the most beautiful and affordable countries to visit. But if you ask the general person from outside the country where they want to visit, the standard answer is Cape Town. It's not as if anyone wants to go to Durban, Johannesburg, Bloemfontein. So, I mean, it's not... I suppose just the general media that gets released around the world could have people, building concerns, as well as now, I suppose, just... I don't know, like just the general overall global slowing economy. Maybe people don't want to spend money, although we are relatively affordable.
Well, I
think it's a whole bunch of things.
Certainly, with the rand where it is at the moment, one would imagine that Brand South Africa and Tourism South Africa would be doing a whole lot more. We know Cisa and Shauna, the CEO of Tourism South Africa, left under a cloud. Can we just get the right capable people to steer the various ships of state-owned enterprises and their related bodies to get growth going in South Africa again? That was Jordan Weir, trader at Citadel, and Rob Tywell, portfolio manager at Sasfin Wealth, with your view from the market. Let's cross to Katleho Makase, who's standing by with your traffic.